All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to an interesting meeting from a statistical perspective. It's the last meeting of 2018, but the first meeting of this incoming council. We're going to be your council for the next 4 years. So thank you for coming out tonight. Welcome to the gallery and to the viewers at home. And welcome to the press table as well. Quick announcement, a couple announcements before we get going. Councillor Comey sends her regrets tonight. She cannot join us for health reasons. And I also wanted to welcome our newest communications officer, Adam Ferguson, who comes to us from Deep River. He will be handling all the communications portfolio moving forward. With that said, I am now going to look to the Deputy Mayor for the motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. It's moved by myself, or me, I should say, and seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that the content of the council agenda for December 17th, 2018 be adopted as presented.
And I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Declarations of pecuniary interest and the nature thereof. Any to be declared at this point? Deputy Mayor Hall?
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. If item 7.7 from the consent agenda is pulled, I will step away from the table. I've got a son who's involved in one of the schools that would benefit from this particular event.
Okay. Any others? Councillor McLeod.
I shall have to step away for item 12.1 regarding the alternate member of County Council decision.
Okay. Any others? If something arises during the course of the meeting, please bring it up at that time. Adoption of the minutes. Councillor McLeod, do you have that?
I move that we adopt the minutes as read.
Oh, sorry. Deputy Mayor Hall has that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moved by me and seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held October 15th, 2018, the special meeting of council held November 7th, 2018, and a special meeting of council held November 26th, 2018 be approved as presented.
So if there's any corrections or comments on the past minutes, seeing none, and I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Any business arising from the previous minutes? Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. Excuse me. For the October 15th minutes, there was a request for a staff report regarding some outstanding items of concern for the Eden Oak development. I just wanted to ask for an update on that staff report.
Director McDonald, is there any update on that?
I can provide.
Your Worship, if I can interrupt, I would have a conflict on that particular item, so perhaps I should excuse myself.
Okay. Councillor Hamlin is leaving the room. Councillor Director McDonald.
We've had a couple letters back and forth with the engineering consultant, plus submissions from them. We are just finalizing our review of the most recent package of letter and submission, and we should be prepared to present a report to committee in the new year.
Does that address your concerns, Councillor?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You can get Councillor Hamlin back in the room. Councillor Hamlin, the clerk has properly reminded me that I need to get you to describe the nature of the whether it's pecuniary or not, just what the conflict is.
The conflict is a pecuniary interest, as my husband and I live on a property abutting that development.
Good, thank you. All right, community announcements. We'll go around the table and we'll start with the Deputy Mayor.
I guess if I may be the first at the table to simply wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, all the best in the new year of 2019, and look forward to the next 4 years and the opportunity to serve with my colleagues here.
I would echo Deputy Mayor Hall's sentiments.
Thank you, and we'll go now to Councillor Madigan.
Also, I'm not going to say anything that the two previous didn't do me, but community. This is a new community around the table tonight, and we've got some old and some new, and I think, well, experienced and some new. Thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. And I'm very excited for the next 4 years. I will say this, it is very nice to be able to come to a meeting and only have positive thoughts around the table. And I'm looking forward to the next 4 years of showing up with a big smile on my face and no acid reflux and eating tons. So thank you very much, Mayor Saunderson, Deputy Mayor Hull, and the rest of my colleagues. Let's go forward to do some positive things and make this town not great again, but just better.
Thank you. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Worship. A reminder to the public that there is a cannabis survey online, Collingwood.ca, and we are inviting opinions from the residents as to whether there is an interest or an approval of retail sale of cannabis within the municipality. The council must make a decision whether to opt in or opt out as of January 22nd. So your input is very important and we would appreciate it. You can go online and you can also, I believe, find hard copies of the survey, and the clerk will correct me, at Town Hall and at the library if needs be. And then just a run up the flag for the Frozen in Time Festival, December 28th to 30th. There's going to be all kinds of wonderful family-oriented activities ongoing downtown, and it is well worth visiting to see sculptures, to see sculpture competitions, wagon rides, and free skating at the Eddie Bush Arena. And more information can also be found on the town website. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barman.
Thank you. Nothing for me tonight, Mayor Saunderson.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. First, I'd like to begin by congratulating the Royal Canadian Legion on a record-breaking Poppy Fund campaign. The community supported them to the tune of $45,000. And of course, those kind of results don't happen with the work of a lot of good people. Poppy Chair Hans Mueller and his right hand Sue Mueller, and of course President Rob Graham and Treasurer Pat Graham and the whole Poppy committee. They turn some of that money you'll see going back into our hospital and some great causes. So congratulations to them. Secondly, I'd just like to, at this holiday time, focus on a great outreach program. The Trinity United Church has just begun a program in honor of Susan Wells, a young woman in our community who was brutally murdered in Africa while doing community service work there. They've begun a crock-pot cooking class geared to people who rent rooms and have no or limited kitchen facilities. So participants can sign up for the class at no cost and learn to prepare and cook a nutritious meal using a crock-pot. And it's provided for them by the church if they do not have one. And so they can return to learn more recipes to cook in their crock pot. So the church will also provide dry goods, flours and spices measured for each recipe, and it's available at their food pantry and their community dinners. And the packaging has reminders of how to do the recipe. They're getting a great response, great financial assistance, but as always, they could always use more, maybe with the donation of funds or a $20 crock pot. And they also take the opportunity to speak to them about food purchasing in small packages, the Good Food Box program, which we are all familiar with, and other budgeting tactics. I thought it was a great outreach program for this time of year. And then I too, from my family to all of yours, wish you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, and a very prosperous and healthy 2019. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Hammond.
Thank you. Everything's really been said ahead of me. I would like to remind the community, though, that the County of Simcoe's affordable housing building at 2nd and High is nearing completion, and that the county's website now has the application online at simcoe.ca for those who might be interested in putting in an application for one of those units. There's family units as well as senior units in those two buildings.
Okay, that is an important announcement, and as Councillor Hammond said, the applications are out there. It is a county facility, so the sooner you get your application in, the better. And we're all looking forward to those buildings being opened, I think late summer this year. So that's an exciting development. I have a couple of announcements. First announcement, augment the Frozen in Time Festival. There will be Rogers Hometown Hockey coming to Collingwood on December 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's going to be very exciting. And on December 28th, Friday, I will be participating in a sledge hockey game. They call it a celebrity game. I'm not one of the celebrities. I'll be one of the ones behind the play, but I'm greatly looking forward to it. I have done it in the past, and it's probably one of my favorite events, playing with the kids in the sledge hockey. It's spectacular to see them move around out there. And as part of that, we will have a lead-in for a fundraiser that is the brainchild of a local resident, Kevin Bambro, who's here tonight. And Kevin is a member of the Big Sisters, Big Brothers board. It's a hashtag Be Better. It's all about the importance of mentorship in our communities, and the reason it ties into hometown hockey is because Ron McLean is making a video. It's to raise money, not just here in Collingwood, but across Canada and across North America, and in fact the world. And so Kevin is going to give us a little bit of the rundown on that, and unless there's any objections from council, I'm going to ask Kevin to come forward and just give us a description of the program.
Seeing that he's already there.
Seeing he's already, Kevin beat me to the punch on that one.
Kind of hard to say go back and sit down, man.
So with that, seeing that council is good to have you here, Kevin, please tell us about the event.
Thanks very much for allowing me to come in on such short notice. I joined the board of Big Brothers this past summer, became a full-time resident Collingwood at the same time, and quickly came to learn about, like a lot of charities, how they struggle with raising money and financing the good work they do. So I put together an initiative to start. It's actually called the hashtag Be Bigger. It's a Be Bigger challenge, somewhat like the Ice Bucket Challenge. It's designed to be like a viral campaign. We're asking people, and Ron McLean has produced a video for us. We're going to have other NHLers, celebrities and such, as well as hopefully the donors and participants in the program, the bigs, the littles in the Big Brothers program. We've got a lot of teachers. We're asking local principals to nominate other principals and sort of carry it through the school system. As a lot of you may know, the police department is a big supporter of Big Brothers organization. They view it as a great opportunity to have a community outreach. There'll be police officers across the country doing videos. And the videos themselves are really just people talking about the mentors in their lives. I was quite inspired by a story, Max Domi. When he was growing up, he was struggling taking face-offs, and his dad, Ty, pulls him out of school, takes him down to the gardens. Mark Messier's in town and gives Max Domi face-off lessons. And it's an inspiring story to hear these types of things when whether you're an athlete or a celebrity or just an average guy. I lost my dad when I was 23. He was only 51. I was very lucky to have him for that time. And without our mentors, without the people that support us, we wouldn't be who we are today. And I'm trying to appeal to everyone to sort of dig deep, think about the important mentors in your lives, and think about those that don't have them and that need them. And so, you do your video. It's a short 1 minute to 2 minute video typically. Talk about the important mentors, and then pass on and nominate other people. I understand the mayor was kind enough to promise to do a video and nominate some local mayors, and I guess the next community is over. And anyway, it'll be huge. Collingwood, we've cut a deal because we've produced this campaign out of Collingwood. We've asked for a little bit extra out of the whole national campaign, and as well out of Big Brothers America. So we get a disproportionate amount of the donations that come in across North America, so it can be quite huge for our local community. And hopefully we also, not only do people donate, but people volunteer to become Big Brothers and Big Sisters, because there are kids on the waiting list.
Kevin, before you leave, what are the dates?
The official launch date of the campaign is the 20th of, so just this Thursday. But we're asking people to start, especially like, sort of more influential celebrities and local businesses, to start producing videos anytime now. And again, it's bebigger.com or bebigger.ca. And any support that we can get from local businesses to help promote. And I look at it like a great team building exercise as well for corporations. When people get together and they share stories about their upbringing and whatever, it's a great way to bond and hopefully people follow through with supporting the organization financially as well.
Good. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks very much.
All right, the next thing, we have no deputations tonight, and we'll look then to the consent agenda, and who would have that motion? Now I go to council.
Do I read the whole thing,
Uh,
including the points, or just the first line?
I'll just read the motion and just tell us how many items are on there tonight.
Be it resolved that the consent agenda having moved by Councillor MacLeod and seconded by Councillor Madigan, that the consent agenda having been given due consideration by council be received, and there are 7 items on the consent agenda.
Councillor Madigan?
To be pulled, I was just anticipating.
You were anticipating, well, first I'm gonna get it on the table and then we'll pull the item. So, for putting the consent agenda on the table, all in favor? That is carried unanimously. Any items to be pulled? Councillor Madigan?
Thank you, Mayor Saunders. 7.7, the hockey day in Collingwood.
Okay. Any others? Councillor Doherty?
7.1 and 7.6, the MVCA board meeting highlights and the proposed scope for business planning tool.
And Councillor Jeffrey?
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. 7.3, the hospital from Minister Clark, hospital letter.
Any others? All right, we'll start with you then, Councillor Madigan. In 7.7. Yes, Councillor Hall Deputy Mayor Hall is stepping in. I'm gonna get that right sometimes, yes. Councillor Madigan.
I thought this was very important. This initiative has happened for a while, and we actually have one of the lead people here right now who is come to do this. I think it's great for the high school kids to be able to get out there and feel a sense of identity, raising money in our community, and have them really leading the way. So I believe last year was $5,000 for sick kids, and this year they've chosen to partner with the Collingwood General and Marine Hospital. And what's really cool is these kids pick it. They have options, but at the end of the day, they're on the ice and they're playing the game. So I think there is a motion for support.
Yes,
I'm looking at one, so I'm hoping that it is. So if I have any comments or questions from my colleagues, I'm very so proud of our youth. These are the kids that their educators have started them caring early, and I thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Certainly is a great hockey night in town. I've been to many of them, and it's raucous, good competition between the local schools, and the drum line's out, so it's got the Eddie Bush full to the rafters. It's wonderful to see. And this year, the reason for the motion is that the grant program that previously helped pay for the ice time is not available. So what we're doing this, under this motion is agreeing to waive the fees, and I will look for that motion. Councillor MacLeod.
Moved by Councillor MacLeod and seconded by Councillor Madigan. Be it resolved that council support Hockey Day in Collingwood and waive the ice rental fees associated with the event.
And no further comments, and I'll call the motion. All in favor? And that is approved unanimously. So we can get the deputy mayor back. All right, and we'll get to the second item then. Councillor Doherty, you had 2, 7.1 and 7.7, or 7.6. Off by a digit, okay.
Thank you, Worship. So I've asked for the MVCA board meeting highlights to be pulled only because at that board meeting, the 2019 budget was presented, and it has since been circulated to the member municipalities. The total proposed budget is 4.9 million. That's for the entire watershed. That's just to put it in perspective, is equivalent to just the proposed policing budget for the town of Collingwood for this year. So they do a lot with a little, and it's a 3.7% proposed increase. Collingwood's portion of that levy would be 10%, which is an $11,000 increase to our NVCA budget up to $247,000 for 2019. Town of Collingwood is the third biggest contributor after the City of Barrie and New Tecumseh.
Okay. And then item 7.6.
Thank you. The Open for Business planning tool, there has been concern expressed among numerous municipalities and environmental groups in Ontario because this bill, which is still only in its first reading, acknowledged, but it would provide for no public notice, no consultation, no appeal for development applications, and has potentially significant implications for Collingwood relative to the protection of our natural heritage, our wetlands, and generally our sustainability. The cities of Burlington, Oakville, Halton Hills, Mississauga, and Aurora have already made official statements in opposition to this proposed act. And so I wanted to bring it forward to members of council to inquire whether there would be an interest in having a more in-depth discussion and perhaps leaning upon staff to give us a perspective on this and come back to us in the new year. January 20th is the deadline for feedback on this phase of the act.
So are you asking for a staff report then?
If I could have support from a member of council for a staff report, yes please.
Okay, and is there a second?
I would second that motion.
Councillor Hamlin, any questions or comments before we call the vote? Yeah, Councillor Hamlin.
I had the exact same thoughts as Councillor Doherty, that this is a significant change to the Planning Act that's being proposed. Councils will have the opportunity, as I read the first draft today, to opt out of. We don't have to choose to enact one of those bylaws, but they do give municipalities and anyone really an opportunity to comment on the proposed legislation. So I think why not? We might as well have our staff have a look at it and us debate whether we want to make a submission, because perhaps if it was fine-tuned in some fashion, we would take advantage of it.
All right then. I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. I asked for this to be pulled because I thought I'd like to speak to a couple of salient points and to ask for a little bit of clarification. So I think first that the letter from Minister Clark, it's important to note that what he said was that until the hospital has proceeded further in the planning and approval process, a decision of your request, which was our council, for a zoning order is premature. And so what he is suggesting there is that the hospital has work to be done to advance their application before this particular planning decision could be made or considered. So it's my understanding that the hospital did receive the additional $500,000 planning monies during the summer. And I was just going to clarify with CEO Amin, we had set aside $150,000 for the hospital. Is that ongoing or something that we would have to reconsider in our budget?
Through your worship, that money is set aside, and I assume will carry it over in 2019 if it's not used in this current fiscal year.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So that would mean that the hospital has $650,000 available to work on those planning informations that are required by the province, and I'm assuming that we will continue to be helping in any way that we can in the process, but it is their process.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And just to follow up on the hospital front, I can tell council and the public that on December 3rd I received a letter. The hospital is in the process of putting together a hospital municipal advisory forum that will consist of the mayors from Clearview, Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, Grey Highlands, and Grey County and Simcoe County wardens. And we'll be meeting at least twice a year to look at healthcare in the community and issues that are arising, and to dialogue about various ways we can work together to improve health in our community. So, and I think that is tightly tied to the hospital initiative, so that is good news, and I will keep you posted up to date on that. Councillor Hanlon.
Also on this particular matter on the agenda, as I read the minister's letter that Councillor Jeffrey was having reference to, he thought that the zoning order was a premature approach. And so it left me thinking whether this was something now our council should take back under its wing. And what I'd be asking is for support for, I think, a staff report from our planning department as to the timing and the procedures that we would go through if we were to bring forward the appropriate applications for designation and rezoning of the hospital site.
We can look at that. A lot of that was uploaded by the previous government, so that the municipal comprehensive review is now done by the county. So I would imagine a lot of those comments would be driven by the county, and I can tell you that they're in the process of just doing the mapping and land inventory that covers things from heritage to archaeological, green belt, and so they're anticipating that it could be as long as 5 years before they're in the position to have actually done a municipal comprehensive review.
Well, I think what I'm asking, and I hear what you're saying, that the county's not looking at it right now, but perhaps if we were to ask the county to give this priority and to bring this forward.
No, the county is working on it.
They are?
Very actively, but because the municipal comprehensive review would not be done by a municipality by municipality basis, it's county-wide. It's a very massive undertaking, and so that is why it's going to take, projected to take as long as it will.
But what I'll do is I'll speak to staff
Okay.
following the meeting and get some more information. Thank you.
Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Hall.
Mayor Saunderson, perhaps at your discretion and the CEO's discretion, an invitation in early 2019 could be afforded to the CEO of the hospital to come and give an update to council and the community.
Certainly, I think we can look at that. Good suggestion. All right. Any other comments on the consent agenda? Then we will move on to reports, minutes of other committees and boards.
I would have that, Mayor Saunderson.
Okay, Councillor Vernon.
Moved by me and seconded by Councillor Madigan, be it resolved that the following board minutes be received and recommendations therein approved. Collingwood Public Library Board minutes, October 25th and November 22nd, 2018.
Any questions or comments around the table? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Staff reports, 9.11, Community Emergency Management Program Committee. Do you have that, Mayor?
I do, Mayor Saunderson. In fact, I've got each of them for the staff reports.
Okay.
The first one here, moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod, be it resolved that staff report FS 2018-04, recommending council enact and pass an amended bylaw to incorporate the establishment of the Community Emergency Management Program Committee as a schedule to bylaw number 2016-090 be approved.
Chief Barr, can you give us some background on this, please?
Through you, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship, as part of the compliance each year is we have submit a bunch of information to the OFMEM. What they wanted was the committee actually listed that drives the program in the community, and that wasn't done. So this here amends our bylaw stating who the committee is made up of, and that we actually have one and are delivering the program to receive our 2018 compliance.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments around the table? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Next item, Deputy Mayor.
So this is the bylaw. So moved by me and seconded by Councillor McLeod, be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-089, being a bylaw to establish the Community Emergency Management Program Committee, be enacted and passed the 17th day of December 2018.
Questions or comments, Council? I'll call the vote then, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. And fees and services charges.
So this is the staff report moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that staff report 2018-11, recommending council enact and pass the fee and service charges as attached, be approved.
Marjorie, Treasurer, any comments on this before we call the vote?
Just through you, Your Worship, it is based on a bylaw that we pass every year with the fees and charges that allows staff to implement a minimum increase of CPI at June 30th. And as well, we would increase the water and wastewater rates according to the water and wastewater rate study. However, this year we're holding off on increasing the water rates, and that is in relation to the overbilling that was uncovered in 2017.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Bylaw.
This would be the bylaw, so moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-090, being a bylaw to adopt the 2019 fees and services charges, be enacted and passed the 17th day of December 2018.
Thank you. Comments or questions, council? Seeing none, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Temporary borrowing bylaw.
This would be the staff report, so moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that staff report T 2018-12, recommending council enact a bylaw to establish the rates and due dates for the 2019 interim tax levy be approved.
Thank you. Treasurer, would you like to comment?
Certainly, Your Worship. This is one of the housekeeping bylaws that we have to pass every year, and this will just establish our first billing that will be equal to 50% of your total prior year's tax bills. And it is something that we do try to do in the December of the prior year to get it covered.
Good, thank you. Questions or comments, council? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. And all in favor? That is carried unanimously. The bylaw.
The bylaw, moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-091, being a bylaw to provide for the 2019 interim tax levy, be enacted and passed the 17th day of December of 2018.
Thank you. I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Accommodation review implementation. Oh, sorry. Temporary borrowing bylaw. Councillor Deputy Mayor Hall.
The staff report, moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that staff report T 2018-13, recommending council enact a bylaw establishing the 2019 temporary borrowing facility for the town of Collingwood at $6 million be approved.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer?
Thank you, Worship. This is again one of those housekeeping items that we do set aside a small portion of borrowing in the event that we should need it. I will make note that 2008 was the last time that we ever needed any funding from the bank. We were overdrawn $20,000. So, $6 million is significantly below the amount that we actually could borrow in terms of temporary borrowing, but we don't want to go overboard with that number. So if we need it, it is there. Otherwise, we don't draw on it.
And we have our pay-as-you-go policy too. Any questions around the table? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Bylaw, Deputy Mayor.
The bylaw, moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-092, being a bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing to meet the current expenditures of the town of Collingwood until taxes are collected and other revenues are received, be enacted and passed the 17th day of December 2018.
Thank you, and I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And now I think that gets us to our accommodation review.
I have that as well. So again, moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod, be it resolved. The council directs staff to bring forward a report on next steps and recommendations based on the findings for the master accommodation plan.
Director McDonald, do you want to speak to this?
I think the request is self-explanatory. We'll be coming forward with a report with next steps.
All right. Questions or comments around the table? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. The cannabis update retail consultation.
Once again, moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod, be it resolved, the council received this information update on cannabis legalization and consultation.
And this has been the subject of much debate, so I will ask the clerk to just take us through this report.
Certainly, through your worship, to members of council. Again, the most significant component of this is our consultation piece that we're doing right now regarding municipalities' ability to opt out of allowing retail storefronts within the town of Collingwood. So I'd like to encourage the public to either fill out the survey, send us an email at clerk@collingwood.ca, or come in and speak with a staff representative that's familiar with the process and provide us our feedback. We are preparing a report that will be coming back to committee early in January with council's consideration January the 14th before the January 22nd deadline.
If I can just clarify with you then, Sarah, my understanding is there was an announcement today about our region and the number of outlets that would be allowed in our region. If you could just take us through that.
Certainly. So the legislation has been changing quite regularly regarding this matter, and it was actually a regulation that was made last Thursday that's been announced and communicated across the province that they, since there is such a shortage, a supply of cannabis at the moment, that they are not allowing application processes for individuals that are wanting, or businesses that want to have a storefront or a retail location within a jurisdiction. So there is a limit now. There's only 25 licenses that will be granted for the April deadline. That period will be open for businesses to apply mid-January. I believe it's only going to be open for 2 days, regardless that from all those submissions for the applications, it's going to be a lottery system, and only five retail applications for licenses will be granted to our region. Our region is considered the East region, and our region actually spans from Ottawa to Halliburton to us. So it's a very significant area, and they're only allowed retail storefronts with municipalities that are greater than a population than 50,000.
So based on that math, then Collingwood would not be in the first round of stores.
That's correct, and we don't know when phase 2 will happen. Regardless, they haven't extended the deadline for opting in or opting out, so that's still January 22nd. Regardless, we won't be one of the first municipalities, if council chooses to opt in, that will have retail.
Thank you. Any questions or comments around the table? Councillor McLeod.
Through you, your worship, to Sarah, as far as you understand at this point, then the implications for us of opting in versus opting out remain the same. That part hasn't changed. If we say no, we can say yes later. If we say yes, we can't say no later. That stays the same?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. And I think the next is the Harbour Lands and Terminals.
This one is moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Resolved that the council directs staff to prepare a report in early 2019 outlining a process and timeline for the following. There are 4 components. A, compilation of base information regarding terminals and everything that is known about the SPIT, including all of its interrelated components. B, a strategy for public consultation where this base data can be conferred and used as both parameters for a good conversation with the public, as well as an opportunity to mine for public opinion. C, the development of a framework for soliciting advice from all town departments with the state owns properties. And D, the development of framework for decision-making by council by the end of 2019 to facilitate implementation via the 2020 budget.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I have an amendment, so I'm going to pass the chair over to Deputy Mayor Hall so that I can put my amendment on the table, and then Deputy Mayor Hall will ask for a seconder. And I would like to add a fifth requirement or category, which would be E, and that is when we were doing the Central Park Steering Committee, we were looking at ways of identifying the market for our larger assets, which included at the time the terminal. And we were looking at doing a market sounding to try and find out what type of developers were out there, what the interest might be in the scope of those developments to guide us in that process. So I would like to add a provision E that would allow staff to look at or consider hiring third parties to assist in this process as they deem appropriate.
I have a seconder for the mayor's amendment. Councillor Jeffrey is the seconder. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council regarding the amendment?
I have a question. So is your motion then to allow staff to retain outside consultants to look at the marketing of the terminals?
The thrust of the motion is to allow them to look into that, to report back to us, to tell us how they think that might be useful. And it is to look at ultimately who the end purchaser or private partner might be and the scope of that type of partnership.
So would staff be reporting back before that person is hired on the parameters of what would be looked at?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll turn it back to the chair for the vote.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we'll call the vote first on the amendment, which is to add the additional clause E, and then depending on the outcome of that motion, we'll go back to the original motion. So then voting just on the addition of the amended clause, all in favor? And that's carried. Now going to the original motion. I didn't see any questions or comments before, but I'll check again before we call a vote. So seeing none, I'll call a vote on the original motion then. All in favor, as amended. And that is carried unanimously. And I lost my place. Deputy Mayor, priority item for council official plan review.
Moved by me and seconded by Councillor MacLeod, be it resolved that council instructs staff to prepare a list of proposed official plan amendments for council's review.
Director Farrar, is there anything any relevant aspects of this you'd like to take us through?
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. I think the general point is that this is almost a constant process. It seems that we need to be looking at our official plan and whether it's relevant and whether it's appropriate and whether it needs to be updated based on what's happening currently in our community.
Good, thank you. Questions or comments around the table? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? And it's carried unanimously. Zoning bylaw review.
Moved by me, seconded by Councillor MacLeod, be it resolved that council instructs staff to prepare a list of proposed zoning bylaw amendments for council's review.
This one's pretty short, so I don't know that we need comment on it. Any questions or comments around the table? Yes, Councillor Hamlin.
Thank you. The staff report that accompanied this speaks to changes in the zoning bylaw, which would include, quote, numbers which determine where and how development may occur. For example, lot frontage, lot area, setbacks from lot lines, maximum lot coverage, and minimum landscaping. So my question is for our Director of Planning. And it relates to the number of inquiries I've had with respect to problems with infill development. And I wanted to ask again of our planning director if this zoning bylaw review would come forward with some recommendations with respect to infill.
Director Farrar?
Thank you, and through Mayor Saunderson to Councillor Hamlin, yes, this will be one of the aspects that we will be looking at in this review.
Thank you.
All right, I will call the vote then. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. OPP contract.
Moved by me and seconded by Councillor McLeod, be it resolved that the council recommend the OPP contract Policing Bureau be invited to present the details of the contract to council at an upcoming SIC meeting prior to council's consideration of the contract approval on January the 28th, 2019.
Look to the clerk. Sarah, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this report?
Certainly, if council approves this report, we'll be contacting the OPP Contract Policing Bureau and setting up a public presentation that they can come and speak to council.
Thank you. Questions or comments around the table? Seeing none, I will call the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Sale of the Collingwood Regional Airport.
Moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod, be it resolved the council receive the update on the sale of Collingwood Regional Airport.
Through you, Your Worship, this is the continuation of the due diligence regarding the sale of the Collingwood Airport. We have a potential purchaser, and over the last several months the town has been negotiating with the purchaser, and the purchaser has been negotiating with the various holders of agreement and leases to ensure that these leases and these agreements are part of the ongoing dialogue as we move to divest the airport. There is one particular issue I'd like to speak to, which is in the public domain. As many of you can appreciate, this is a commercial transaction, so there's only so much I can say publicly. But I'd like to inform council, I think council is aware of this, but also members of the public, that an application has been filed in the Superior Court regarding an existing agreement that the municipality has with an adjacent landowner. And the nature of this application is to ensure that the agreement is part of the transaction. So there is nothing that the town has to respond to. The adjacent landowner put us a notice indicating that he's interested in having that agreement as part of the transaction between the potential purchaser and the municipality.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns, council? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Proceeds from sale of assets.
Moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod, be it resolved that the council receive the update regarding the use of proceeds from the sale of assets and provide direction to staff as follows. Delay the public consultation until the sale of the airport is confirmed, however, not later than January 31st, 2019.
Thank you. Council questions or concerns? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question, I asked a couple questions at the committee, and I guess I got a little fussed over delaying and maybe the wording, I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me because I felt like we were losing a lot of time for the public to have input. But I think what I probably need is maybe clarification that staff will still be able to start preparing their work in a staff report, and that we would be ready to hit the ground at the same time in any event. Would that be the case? Because I'd really like to vote in favor of it.
I'll look to the CAO for that.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the intention is not to wait until Jan 31st to actually begin the process of developing the options. In fact, we are preparing the staff report as we speak, and the intention would be to bring the staff report to council in January with some options so that we can actually launch the consultation shortly after January 31st. So that's the intention. The intention is to go to the public with an options paper, as it were, in early February.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. The website app development update.
It's moved by me and seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved, the council received the website app development update.
This is from the clerk, so Sarah, is there any update you'd like to give us at this point?
Through your worship, members of council, now that we have Krista Carter's been stick handling this for us, so she's been doing a great job. So she'll be working very closely with our new communications officer, so we look forward to moving this process along.
Good. And so Adam, you'll be getting up to speed quickly on this. Great. Any questions or comments around the table? I will call the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. I think that might be it for you. Deputy Mayor, you have any more motions over there? Appointments? Oh, okay. Let's do that one then, please.
So I've got motion 9.2.1, moved by me, seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved, the council authorized the appointments of council representatives to the committees boards as indicated below. There are two standing committees. The first one is the Development and Operations Committee, comprised of the mayor, myself, councillors Doherty, Hamlin, and Jeffrey. Second one is the Corporate and Community Services Committee, and that would be comprised of the mayor, councillors McLeod, Comey, Berman, and Madigan. The various boards and committees are as follows. The Collingwood Public Library Board would be Councillor Berman. Police Services Board would be the mayor and Councillor Jeffrey. Sports Hall of Fame would be Councillor Madigan. Collingwood BIA Board of Management would be Councillor Comey. The Nottawa-Sauga Valley Conservation Authority, the NVCA, would be Councillor McLeod. EPCOR Town Advisory Committee would be the mayor, Councillor Doherty, and CAO or designate. And the last would be the Simcoe County Alliance and Homelessness, and that would be myself.
Comments around the table? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Standing committee report.
Moved by me and seconded by Councillor McLeod. Be it resolved, the council received the Strategic Initiative Standing Committee Report, SIC 2018-07, from its meeting held December the 12th, 2018, as presented.
We were all there for that one, so I don't know that you need to update us on any other aspects. So that being the case, and unless there's any comments, I'm going to call the vote. Are you up? You're getting ahead of me. All right, I will call the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And that brings us to staff reports. 10.1, part lot control exemption bylaw. Who would have that?
I have that, your worship. Moved by me and seconded by Deputy Mayor Howell. Be it resolved that staff report 2018-37 recommending council enact and pass a part lot control exemption bylaw to allow for 2 lots to be created within lot 86 of registered plan 51M-945 be received.
Did that very well. You didn't trip over Deputy Mayor Hall. It just seems to be me that does that. I don't know. Director Farrar, do you have any comments on this?
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson, and this is probably the first of a number of similar reports this council will be asked to consider. It is normal practice for the lot between 2 semi-detached dwellings to be drawn after the house is constructed. That way the surveyor gets it absolutely in the right spot. So what happens is that the dwelling is built, and then we go through a part lot control process and put the line down the middle, and then they can sell each individual house separately to a purchaser. So this is a process that I'm sorry that get used to it, I guess I'll say, council, because certainly I know the previous council had a number of them to deal with.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Deputy Mayor Hall.
Just a comment, and that is that I think that a good majority of us perhaps heard from residents within that particular subdivision, and they'll be pleased to see that there's some movement on this particular lot because it's been used as a construction dumping zone for a period of time, and it's been a bit of a bone of contention. So I'm pleased to see that this particular lot will get cleaned up and moved on.
No more comments, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. And the bylaw. Do you have that, Councillor Doherty?
Yes, I do. Moved by me and seconded by Deputy Mayor Hull. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-093, being a bylaw to exempt a portion of land from the part lot control provisions of the Planning Act, more specifically Lot 86 of 51M-945, be enacted and passed this 17th day of December 2018.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. The proposed land acquisition, who would have that?
I do, Mayor Saunderson.
Councillor Madigan.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Jeffrey. Be it resolved that staff report P 2018-36 recommending council authorize staff to complete the acquisition of the rear portion of 11521 Highway 26, including undertaking the necessary survey work, legal work, etc., be approved.
Questions or concerns around the table? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. In our original discussions with this, some of the terms are outlined in this motion. They were in our report. Is there any update on those? Because one of my questions, I believe, was with respect to the donation status and the length of commitment. And the sale of it.
Can you, if you go to page 3, the conditions, can you just take us to the specific conditions?
Yeah, I was looking for it in the motion, I didn't see it now. I can't find any.
Page 115.
Page 115.
Nope, sorry. Technologically challenged is not what I have the report. Oh, I'm in the wrong report. Never mind. That's what I can't find. It's just in there. Right. So, it would be, what I read it, the wording was that if the town disposed of it within 20 years, it would be returned
I think that's number 2.
Yes, that if the land be transferred is declared surplus by the town, PRA will have a buyback option for a nominal sum for a period of 20 years. And that, to my recollection, would be totally opposite to the instructions that we gave the last time we talked about this.
Yeah, and I think you're looking along the lines of for fair market value.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we need to move an amendment, and then if you want that considered.
Yes, I would like to move that amendment, please.
Okay, do I have a second? Councillor Madigan. Questions or comments on the amendment, which is to amend paragraph 2 of the conditions, that if the land to be transferred is declared surplus by the town, the PRA will have a buyback option for fair market value to be determined by an appraisal for a period of 20 years. Councillor Deputy Mayor Hall. Do that, thank you.
Mayor Saunders, I think this question would apply not only to the amendment, but to all of the conditions.
Okay.
And that is, the agreement that's put in place is for a 20-year period between the town and Prairie River Academy. If there is a change in ownership from one side to the other, in this case it would be PRA, is this agreement apply to successors, heirs, for example?
That's a good question. It depends. I think it's a legal question. It depends if it's a license or if it runs with the land. And I don't know that we've thought about that. So I would say it's a license. And if they sold the land, that would expire. Would be mine. But I'm not giving legal advice here.
Yeah, so through you, Your Worship, I mean, these conditions will be subject to a review by a lawyer and placed in the relevant legal document to ensure that if there's any exploration, that there is a default provision to address that eventuality. So I suspect the conditions that we've put in here are kind of policy conditions, and we'll turn those into legal language.
I'll just leave it as noted then.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Your Worship, and just looking for clarification. I see variation between the proposed conveyance that we're seeing here and the configuration of the two lots as they existed when this agreement was first put together, which I believe was 05. So has there been a change to the orientation of these three pieces of property since then? Or if you look on page 122, you'll see what I mean. Parcel B is larger than in this iteration than it is in the drawing that we're looking at for the purposes of this discussion.
I'll look to Director of Planning, Nancy.
Thank you. In my understanding of so I assume you're looking at Schedule A, and I believe Schedule A is attached to an agreement that has to do with trails. So it's attached to a trails agreement, okay, as opposed to actually dealing with land, what land would or wouldn't be going, which direction. Okay. So this is an agreement as far as where the trails could or couldn't go. My understanding of some of these old trail agreements, and I won't speak on Mr. Culver's behalf, but some of them are a little questionable as far as whether we could actually enforce some of these old trail agreements. But that would be attached to a 2005 trail agreement, as opposed to talking about what land is or is not going where. If that helps. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Address your questions?
Yes.
Councillor, okay. Any other questions? Councillor Hamlin.
Are we just dealing with Councillor Jeffrey's motion or any questions?
We are dealing with, right now, questions on Councillor Jeffrey's motion to amend. All right, so seeing no other questions on Councillor Jeffrey's motion, which is to amend clause or condition 2 to fair market value, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. And now we're back to the main motion, so Councillor Hamlin.
Yes, I think my questions are directed at our Director of Planning, and I have a few. So I understand if this transaction goes through, we're creating a development lot that will be essentially ready to go to the west side of the nursery on Highway 26. And I'm just wondering what is in place to make sure that this site develops properly from traffic, stormwater management, and these kind of concerns, site plan control concerns.
Thank you, and through Mayor Saunderson to Councillor Hamlin. At the moment, excuse me, the property is in an H. And so the development parcel that will be created and on the, well, I guess it's beside the Georgian Manor Resort, it has a number of conditions that would have to be satisfied in order for the H to be removed. And all of these, or I can read out these conditions. The completion and acceptance of an archaeological study, the completion and acceptance of a stormwater management analysis that includes an integrated review of the subject lands and the abutting lands to the east, the purpose of which is to demonstrate no deleterious impact on the lands to the east, the completion and acceptance of a Phase 2 environmental audit, the adoption of an authorization bylaw for a site plan control agreement that includes details of the landscaping, fencing, buffering required to address the abutting lands to the east, and an integrated approach to stormwater management between the subject properties and the lands to the east, the completion and acceptance of a traffic study, including the determination of appropriate motor vehicle access onto the property, and the operational impact of future traffic generated by the proposed, I guess at this point it was residential development, on the lands abutting to the east. So the property will have to go through the full site plan review process, and it will have to have a number of studies that will be completed prior to the removal of an H. So there are a number of controls that the town, at least in my view, has put in place in order to ensure that this property is appropriately developed when the time comes.
Thank you. And I have one other question. One of the conditions, and it's condition number 6, indicates that if the town wants a connection through this development lot, it would negotiate with the future purchaser of that lot and not with the school who would be doing this conveyance at this time. So my question is for our Director of Parks, Recs and Culture, if he feels this is sufficient to ensure that the town can get access through the development parcel for connections to the public walkway system there, if it's so desired.
Director Culver?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, the town has a number of tools that we use for site planning that ensure that we look after the development of trails on all new developments. Nancy mentioned some of the tools, but shortly in the new year we'll be adding the PRC master plan and the cycling plan to those tools to help us to ensure that the trails are continuous and do what the community wants them to do.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Was it here? Okay, all right, then seeing no other further questions, then I will call the vote. All in favor? That was on the main motion as amended by Councillor Jeffrey's earlier motion. And that is carried unanimously. I think that brings us to motions. And we have a motion today. Who will have that? 11.1, Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. Moved by me and seconded by Councillor Madigan. Whereas Council authorized the Town of Collingwood's participation in the Closed Meeting Investigator Service Contract through Local Authority Services, LAS, as provided through the partnership opportunity with the County of Simcoe in 2016. And whereas the contract with LAS is for 2 years, expiring on December 31st, 2018, with the ability to renew the contract for a subsequent year. Therefore, it be resolved that Council authorize a 1-year extension expiring December 31st, 2019 for the services of Local Authority Services, LAS, to act as the closed meeting investigator for the Town of Collingwood based on the same terms and conditions as previously agreed upon.
Thank you. Council, questions or comments? Seeing none, then I'll call a motion. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Bylaws, who would have 12.1?
I have that.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you. Moved by me, seconded by Councillor Doherty. Be it resolved that bylaw number,
Mayor Saunderson,
Yes, noted please that Councillor McLeod is leading.
Moved by me and seconded by Councillor Doherty, be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-094, being a bylaw to appoint an alternate member to the Council of the Corporation of the County of Simcoe, be enacted and passed the 17th day of December 2018, and this of course is Councillor Marion McLeod.
Questions or comments, council? Seeing none, I'll call a vote though. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Okay, Councillor McLeod back. We have notices of motion, and there are 3, I think, on the list. So I will ask who would have 13.1. Councillor Berman.
Saunderson, thank you. Whereas Council of the Town of Collingwood acknowledges that it is responsible to provide good government for its stakeholders in an accountable and transparent manner, which is consistent with the community-based strategic plan goal of being an accountable local government, and whereas the Ombudsman's Office recommends the recording of closed meetings as a best practice in its reports, as the audio recordings assist in investigation processes. Now therefore be it resolved that Council request an amendment to Procedural Bylaw 2016-020, requiring all closed meetings to be audio and where possible video recorded, and include recommended policies pertaining to security and limited access for investigations purposes only.
Pass it up, thank you. So right now, Councillor Berman is just putting the notices of motion on the table, and we will be dealing with those at the next council meeting. And I think you have one more, Councillor Berman.
Yes, thank you. Whereas the Town of Collingwood is implementing a system to record both the voting record and attendance of all regular council meetings that will be available on the town website, and whereas in an effort to enhance transparency, it would be prudent to extend this practice to standing committees, therefore be it resolved that Council recommend further amending Procedural Bylaw 2016-020 to require a record of attendance and voting for all substantive matters be maintained for all standing committees of Council.
Thank you. Councillor Hamlin.
This also is a notice of motion to provide, to say the following motion will be presented for consideration at the next regular meeting of Council as follows: that Council herein request Procedural Bylaw 2016-20 be amended to require notice for standing committee meetings be not less than 72 hours, consistent with regular meetings of Council.
Good, thank you. County report, there is none this month or this meeting, and so council business, any older deferred business, I'm not sure we can have because this is our first meeting. So we will have that, we can look forward to that in the future. Are there other business? Is there any other business? Councillor Doherty.
Thank you very much. I had a call from a resident inquiring about our policy for clearing of trails during the winter months, and I was just wondering if I could turn to the Director of Parks, Rec and Culture to clarify what we're doing at the present time.
Director Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The current policy regarding clearing of recreational trails is we don't clear recreational trails. There is some confusion about where trails are used as conveyances, sidewalks per se, between neighborhoods or parts of neighborhoods. They're essentially accesses, so they're paved and intended to be cleared with a snow plow or with a sidewalk plow. At the beginning of last budget, council approved us exploring a way to provide pedestrian access to the promenade area in Harborview Park. So we are currently working towards embarking upon a grooming program because sidewalk clearing there is not possible due to limitations of the promenade structures. So we will be looking to get started on that as soon as the winter gives us some stable conditions, some depth of snow, and basically we're So that's going to be the approach at this point for managing access to recreational trails, to pilot an idea of grooming trails.
Thank you. This is kind of a pilot project is what you're saying. Would there be an opportunity at some point to look at some mechanism of clearing some portion out that is not dependent upon weather or trail conditions?
Through your worship, the challenge with creating sidewalk standard trails is that commitment is a substantial commitment, and I know Director McDonald can speak to the cost of a sidewalk plow and the fact that our sidewalk plows are currently maxed out during snow events. We have no further capacity to add trails or the ability to remove snow. We could look at ideas such as contracting, however, that is obviously a significant expense over and above our current budget. So if council requests it, we'll definitely look into it, and we can provide a report.
Thank you. I think what I'd like to, maybe we can have a more robust discussion about this during budget meeting, but I won't ask for specifically for a report until we've had a chance to look at the budget for this year.
All right. Any other announcements? Other business? I have a couple of announcements. The first one is not a happy task. The County Council and Township of Tay recently lost their Deputy Mayor very suddenly. Jim Crawford had served on council from 2014 to 2018 and run for Deputy Mayor successfully and joined the County Council, and passed away very suddenly and unexpectedly in the last few days. And the other announcement is a mea culpa. I did not read the acknowledgement of traditional lands at the outset of this meeting. So today we acknowledge that this event is taking place on the traditional territory of the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. We are thankful to share in the special spirit of this place, rich and hidden in the energy of Mother Earth, our ancestors, and the love of all creation. And with that being said, if there's no other business, then I will look for the confirmatory bylaw, please.
Moved by me, seconded by Steve Berman. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2018-095, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meetings of council held November 7 and 26, 2018, and the regular meeting of council held December 17, 2018, be enacted and passed the 17th day of December 2018.
I will call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Can I have a motion for an adjournment? Councillor Jeffrey. All in favor? Thank you very much, everyone. Good night. Good night to our live stream viewers. And to everyone, a very merry and safe Christmas and happy holiday, however you worship or celebrate that event. And all the best for 2019. And we'll see you back here soon.